Where revolution meets the streets, social issues, justice. But here we go. Welcome to the man cave. Welcome to the man cave. Yeah. Welcome to the man cave. You're now welcome to the man cave. Welcome to the ghetto where you were welcome to settle. But if freedom's what you want, we gon' turn it up a level. Everybody plays the fool, you should know. Aaron Neville, angels get their wings battling the devil. Welcome to the man cave. They want the truth from us.
Thank you for joining us. Welcome to another edition of the Man Cave. We're doing it live again. Yes, due to the current coronavirus situation. So if you're following other podcasts, then this format should be very familiar. I'm gonna let Real introduce our guest. He has a much better relationship with her than I do. But after this, I hope we continue and I get to know her much better this segment and beyond. So Real, you want to introduce the guest?
Yes, by all means. Thank you, Brother Verb. Before I do that, it's always, I'm gonna just say I got to shout you out again. It's always a little nervousness when we get started. I don't know why. I still go through it, but you're my man. You know what I'm saying? And it's always a good time we have on when we do these our live sessions, our podcasts from the Man Cave. So I just want to say big up to you, brother.
Likewise.
Yes, by all means. The sister that's honored us with her special guest appearance tonight is someone who's very close to me. She's a teacher, mentor, a queen in her own right, and she represents for the community, the Black community, on a number of different levels. She's a founder of Project PeaceMakers, which is a grassroots community program for survivors of domestic violence. And I got my first certification. Actually, I cut my teeth as a babe in that field under her tutelage. So without further, also she's an ex LAPD officer. She is long-time PD. She was long-time working on that side of the legal spectrum. She's got a real good perspective on that subject matter. And she's going to come on tonight. She's going to talk about Project PeaceMakers. She's going to talk about domestic violence. She's going to talk about her career as an LAPD officer detective, and so on, as well as the current community climate, or the current climate, the current community. Oh, wow, I'm stuttering here. As well as the climate of the current community situations. That being said, without further ado, let's bring in Sister Bernita Walker. Sister, you there?
Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the Man Cave, Verb and Reel. Welcome.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
All right. I mean, he just ran down the list of things that you've done, and it's unique, especially considering the current situation. I'm seeing that, like, I'm sure your background, like right now, I'm sure everything that you're seeing right now is very familiar with you, whether it be the things with the police department and with domestic violence, for sure. With the amount of stressors and the things that people are going through right now. And then we're not just talking about the COVID-19 situation, but with the protesting and the just the climate right now. I think everybody feels a little tense.
Very high intense climate right now, social climate.
Right. And I think we were already in it anyway, because of the people are, whether their money's kind of funny right now, people are losing jobs, people are in tight quarters together that, maybe they both were working, but now everybody's at home with the kids. So maybe you can, let our audience know, about your mission, as well as, what you see going on today. If you want to, you can touch on the domestic violence first. What do you want to talk about, D, first? How you want to do that first?
She's again, she's a proponent of social reform in domestic violence. You know what I'm saying? So I want her to talk about that first, if that's okay, Bernita. Can you give us some
information? That's fine. I have one correction to make. I'm not retired LAPD. I'm retired LA Sheriff.
Oh,
yeah, get it right.
It was your ex-husband.
My daughter's retired LAPD.
Got it. I'm sorry.
You better get it right. You better get it right.
Thank you for clearing that up. the story.
Okay.
It's a very
It's law enforcement regardless.
Very interesting backstory. Her husband was LAPD. Her ex-husband was LAPD, and she was LA sheriff.
No, my ex-abuser. My ex-abuser. We weren't married.
Okay, so let's jump right into it. Let's go. Let's go.
She said, "No, we ain't tap dancing."
Let's go. Hey, I like that. I like that. Let's go.
Wait.
Well, I thank you. I really thank you guys for allowing me to be with you tonight in the man cave. I feel very honored. Tell you a little bit about my background. Yes, I have been in domestic violence for 40 years. As I'm one of the co-founders of Genesee Center, which is one of the largest shelter programs for victims of domestic violence west of the Mississippi. Has a phenomenal history. I was there for the first 15 years of my life and for the 15 years of my life in domestic violence. And then I left and started Project PeaceMakers. And people always ask me, why did I leave? I left because one of the things that we see in the field of domestic violence, especially in shelters, only 3 to 4% of victims ever go to shelters. So what happens to the other 96 to 97%? Right. Those are for the agencies like I am that work with them. And each month through the CalWorks program, we service over 100 families. And that's just through the CalWorks program that those that come under my non-contractuals, we service another 100 families. So we're doing 200 families a month at Project PeaceMakers. We provide for them all types of services. We provide domestic violence prevention, crisis intervention. We do parenting classes, anger management classes, life skills classes, which is really, really big at our agency, because one of the issues that's faced by victims is that usually they don't have a way to sustain themselves because of the isolation, because of the financial control that the abuser has put on them. So we teach them how to handle their checkbook, handle their finances. I say checkbook, the computer. Many of them don't know how to do the computer. So those are things that can help them better structure their lives and give them empowerment so they don't have to stay in violent relationships. Okay? Indeed. So those are some of the things we do. We also have a SUDS program, which is a substance users disorder program. We have that. We also provide child abusers treatment program. Now what that is, parents or others who have been found guilty of abusing children. They are sentenced to 52 weeks of child abusers treatment program. And so we are approved by the probation department to provide that as well. Right on. Okay, so, and then we teach, we lecture, we do a lot of things. We get it out there. As Dion was saying about me being an advocate for reform, definitely an advocate for reform. You want to ask me about how domestic violence sets up? I'll say with all due respect, I'm in the man cave, but with all due respect, our foundation is cracked. Our foundation of family life is cracked. Couple of weeks ago, through Positive Results, a program that Candy Lewis is the executive director of. I don't know if you've ever spoken to her, if you know Candy Lewis. No. She had an all men show, and they talked about what the current belief is for manhood. And I was astonished at some of the things that they were saying. And one of the things that they, things like men don't cry, men do cry. Yeah. Okay, men do cry because you guys got emotions. So why that's a belief that's about your manhood, I don't know. Like the fathers tell you, don't cry, man up, that type of thing. But they don't teach you how to be a man. And as you already know, a lot of the fathers are not around their children, especially their man children, whom they need to give that information to, but they can't really give it because they don't have it to give.
Sure. If
they don't have the tools. That's what I was talking about, the foundation. Yeah, Dion.
I'm sorry. And I want to just piggyback on that real quick. A lot of what we go through as fathers or as men on a whole is dated back to when, slavery, and we can beat this dead horse until it's, it's further down the ground, but it cannot go without being said that what we know today about being fathers is only 60 years, 70 years old, if that, you know what I mean? Because we've underwent so many different changes in our manhood in the Black community. The concept of being a father is one that, again, it's almost new. You know what I'm saying? We were on that plantational rule. We were dinosaurs. Just dropping seeds here and there.
Exactly.
And it wasn't until long after the Reconstruction era period that we were able to become, on our own accord, fathers to our children, especially our man children, as you said. So again, the information that you're giving is so stellar. It's important, and and again, I'm just glad you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Real quick question, and not to interrupt. I know you said we want to see reforms for sure, but I know that you touched a bit on, I guess it would be like a toxic masculinity, this idea of what it means to be a man. Yes. What can we do in light of reforms that could be coming down the road? What can we do as individual men, as fathers, to encourage a climate where we're bringing out the best of us, the emotional intelligence side, as opposed to just the hard, strict disciplinarian side where men don't cry, men don't show emotions, men, like, as if we're just supposed to be stone-faced and just hard. How do we foster that? Because me and Dion, we have good conversations, and me and him, we speak in love. And I know when people probably hear us talk or see certain things, there are a lot of men who don't speak to you that kind of way. They kind of like, hey man, like, I'm not with all that lovey-dovey stuff. What's up? Like, it's like, dude.
And they're missing it. They're missing out. They're missing out because that's what you guys do. You guys give us love, So they miss out on that. You got to love your children. You have to love. You got to love yourself. That's first. First is loving God, and then after loving God, you have to love yourself. Okay, so that you share that. Love is what's really. That's what we're talking about. That's why we're in the situation that we're in, because there's not enough human love that's going around. We live in a love-starved world. Seriously.
Why not?
We're starved for love because love has been defined to us through the TV as sex.
Yeah. I hear that. I hear that.
Okay. Because one of the things one of the young men said as they were describing manhood, they said that some of our Black men go around seeing how many women they can knock up.
Yeah, I hear that.
Was that like that notch in the belt or the notch in the?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, but what about the children that are coming out of that?
Right.
Okay.
I'm semi-guilty of that misguided manhood teaching that I give to my son. I'm guilty. I say semi-guilty.
Okay.
I'm a good father, 100%. I know that, and I can say that boldly, even though I grew up without my father. So, but when I talk to little Dion and I tell him, stop crying, because he cries for everything, and I want him, I said, man, you can, when it's something, something really wrong, of course, your emotions will overtake you, and you have to cry. I'm gonna support you, son. I'm not gonna tell you not to express your emotion that way. But when you're upset because I didn't give you a piece of candy and you fall out on the floor and start crying, we ain't having that. We're not doing that one. Yo, man, get up. Get up off the ground. Go wash your face. Go to your room until you're ready to, deal with this fact that you can't have no candy right now. You know,
Right.
So yeah, and again, a lot of what we learn too is from what we, you know, what we knew as children ourselves. You know, if you grew up without a father like I did, like a lot of men in the Black community have, the lessons you try to instill into your children are based on what you've learned from your own father figures or fatherless father figures.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So it's what's the saying? Hurt people hurt.
Hurting people hurt people.
Hurt people hurt people. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there it is. It's really hard to give what you don't have.
Okay.
So if you never was taught by a man what a man is supposed to do, what it looks like to be a man, what being a father is all about, you're pretty much working off a playbook that's foreign to you, and you got to decipher through it, you know, the information to give to your children, and hope that you're disseminating it the right way.
Okay. To answer your question, Verb, okay, exactly what you're saying, Dion. You guys need to get together, just like with your man cave. Get together with some fathers. Talk about the issues that you need to talk about in order to deal with your children, with your boys in particular, on how to lead them to be the man that you would want them to be. And also with your girls, because you need to demonstrate to them what kind of man would be acceptable for them. Okay?
Indeed.
Because that's where we make our mistake, because when we get a flawed individual as a father figure for us, then we think it's okay to be with a flawed person.
Right.
And it's not.
Right.
You men have excuse my words, but you have a hell of a responsibility.
Thank you.
Okay? You really do. And just like you said, Dion, you weren't taught about it because your father was not there. And that's something that leaves a hole. So you guys have to come together with others who are facing these same things in order to learn from each other. Support groups.
Sure.
So that you can discuss these things. Well, man, my son fell out because I didn't give him no candy. Oh, man, my son did that, and this is what I did about that. And you talk about it and figure out what is the best way. Because we are products of our environment. We only know what we've been exposed to. If our exposure has been positive and productive, then we're going to be positive, productive individuals. But if that exposure has been negative, dehumanizing, you know, I mean, I hear a lot of brothers in particular, I hear a lot of men say, my mother talked to me like so-and-so and so-and-so, like I was a dog and blah, blah, blah. That's not good. That's not good parenting at all whatsoever. When you talk about talking to your kids, you have to talk to them on their level, not on your level, because they are kids. So they don't understand. They don't understand I can't fall out. I'm a kid. I have the right to fall out if I don't get what I want. But what you do is you're talking about it. Okay, you know what? I hear what you're saying, but let me tell you this, young man. Let me tell you this. This is not acceptable for who you are.
Right.
You have a conversation with me. You can talk to me. I know it hurts that you can't have that, but let me give you something better. Instead of giving you a piece of candy, let me give you a carrot.
Right on. Right.
Let me give you a piece of celery with some peanut butter on it.
Right.
Okay. You have to change it. You have to, because the candy is no good for them anyway.
No,
First of all, it's going to cause you a lot of dental.
Right.
You have to get their cavities fixed when you eat the candy.
Either way, I'm coming out the pocket.
Yeah, you're trying to save yourself as well, right?
Okay.
help me help you.
And then it's going to mess up their health.
Right.
Look at the problems we got with diabetes. Diabetes, asthma, heart conditions, overweight. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You got to start structuring the children so that they can be a better example of who you are.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Verb, did you want to say something?
Yeah, real quick, if you don't mind.
Please, no, please.
Okay. Whereas what Dion was saying that he didn't grow up with his father in a home, I grew up with my father in a home, but I don't feel like I had my father as a emotional support. You know, I think my father, he didn't have a father in his home, so I think his idea of what it meant to be a father was just to provide the monetary support, but not the emotional support. Me and my father, I think we just now, because I think maybe when I was in the military, when I was getting out the military, we just kind of came to that whole, hey man, how you doing, man? Everything good? And now he's retired now, and me and him have a much better relationship. But it wasn't that that the emotional intelligence from his end wasn't there. It was more or less like, well, what more you want from me? I put clothes on your back. I do this, I do that. Yeah. And I think that was always a challenge in the household. When we talk about fundamental changes, whether it be policy, whether it be more big brother programs or, things in school that we can do at an early age, what do you think that maybe the Black community or just America in general needs to do in regards to, even if you have a father in the home, like these tools and these skills to be men and to know how to quantify our anger? Because that's something that my mom had to teach me, but at the same time, like there's a lot of things that I had to learn on my own as a man. Not that I didn't have my father there, but we just didn't have that kind of like, hey man, that kind of relationship. We didn't have that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
And I think it starts early. And what do you think? Maybe in the schools, maybe more mentor programs, more like the big, the Brothers Keeper type of stuff, or Big Brothers program. And I mean,
yes.
It's needed. It's definitely needed.
Yes, because you see our kids out on the street thinking that they're men. Let me ask you a question. Why do boys join gangs?
Social acceptance, bullying, again, fatherless father figures telling them this is the way to go, and there's a number of different
mentorship.
But I joined, but go ahead. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's it. They join for the wrong. You're joining because you're not getting what you need from home.
Right.
So you go there for the camaraderie, for the that a boy type thing, that you're doing. Man, you're doing good. You I don't hate to say it this way, but you went in there, you lifted something up out of there. Yeah, that's the way you do it. That's how you get over. That's not how you get over.
That's how you get that off.
That's not how you get over. Right. That's how you get to jail.
Right.
Yeah, that's real though. That's
okay.
Real.
It's a trip because it's not and I don't want to digress too far into this, but it's about stripes. You know what I'm saying? When it's about getting your name known. You know what I'm saying? How much wrong can you do? To get your stripes. You know what I'm saying? To get recognized, get that reputation, that street credibility. And
okay.
And then Ty spoke on something. I think it was you, Verb, that said, no, I'm sorry, it was Bernita. How many women can I conquer? Because that speaks to my masculinity. And if all my big homies got 6, 7, 8 women, 3 and 4 kids out of each of those relationships, and I don't, I must not be a man.
And see, that has nothing to do with manhood.
Right, exactly. Or
nothing to do with manhood.
Or I see my big homie, or I see my father beating my mother. You know what I'm saying? This is a psychological warfare, if you will.
It's patterns.
It's a pattern. Thank you, Verb. That I'm watching this from childhood up into my young adulthood into adulthood. So this is the man. This is the semblance,
the image of right.
The image of manhood I'm supposed to follow. He's giving me my manhood lessons. He's beating my mother. So now when I get my woman, I get my first girlfriend, and she says something that doesn't jive with how I feel or is questioning my manhood, pow, because that's what I saw in my home. That's what I saw in my community.
That's the environment, exactly.
That's the environment. That's the culture almost. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's, again, hurt people hurt people.
Right.
So my professor, my junior college professor said this. He said, if you don't know much, you can't do much.
Exactly. So you can only do what you know.
So you can only do what you know.
Right.
And if this is the culture of the community that I live in, or if this is the genre, if you will, coming out of my homeostasis, you know, who can tell me I'm wrong? You can't tell me
society.
I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Society tells you you're wrong. Because when you don't make it,
I'm gonna fight against that too.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead. And when you come out of jail,
yeah, right.
Okay, after being beat down in jail,
right,
for all of that,
mm-hmm.
that's not your manhood.
No.
That's not your manhood.
No, not at all. Not
it causes
all.
big problems.
Sure.
One of the problems we're fighting right now with all the unrest and stuff is the arrest of, in particular, people of color. In particular, blacks.
Can I just black people?
Exactly.
I've learned over the years that phrase has taken on new meaning. It used to be synonymous with black people. Now it means anybody who's not white. So let's call a spade, black people.
Okay. We have the least amount of percentages as far as being here, but inside of there, we have the most. Okay. Call myself cutting my phone off. Sorry about that.
No worries.
So the thing is that we have been lied to so much about manhood and even about womanhood. We've been lied to because all the things that we saw on TV, all the things that we sing about in the songs that we hear about this, that, and another, we have ripped ourselves off more than anybody because we've taken ourselves out of who we really were from 16, 19. Okay? Because we are very capable of doing whatever we need to do. Did either one of you here see any parts of the services for George Floyd yesterday?
I saw parts of it. I saw highlights. I want to watch the whole thing. I saw parts. I went on Twitter, but I wasn't able to watch it in its entirety at the time because I had other stuff going on. But I'm gonna watch it. But I've been following. I've been very eyes on with it. But I didn't get to see the full service. But I'll watch it tomorrow.
Okay, please do.
I'll watch it today. I'll watch it tonight actually.
Yeah. Please do. There's some things.
I haven't had a chance to see it, but yes, I'll follow.
I've seen highlights. I saw parts of it, but not the full.
Okay, so because there were some things that were said by every speaker that really should have pierced everybody's heart, especially Black people. Okay, in getting our act together. Yes, we've been held down. Yes, we have that knee on our neck. I was blessed when I was in the sheriff's department. I had a natural. I was the first female to wear a real natural. That's what I was told. There was some that wore kind of fake ones, but I was in there back in 1968. I retired in 78 because I injured my knees. But I moved out because God had something else he wanted me to do, which is what I do, domestic violence. Okay, but that was a part of my training to put me where I am now, to teach me, to show me what's going on, so that I have a better perspective of what's happening.
Indeed.
Okay, so, and I know I'm moving you along to that area, but I don't want to go there until you're ready to go there. I'm going back to the family because that's really, really important. I talked about the foundation. You cannot fix the problem without fixing the foundation. Let me give you a real quick story. Dr. Tony Evans, are you familiar with him? He's a minister out of Dallas, I believe it is. Dallas or Houston.
Tony Evans?
And he said he had a crack in his wall. He had a crack in his wall. And he called somebody in to fix it. And the guy looked at it. He said, yeah, I can fix it. And he fixed it. Well, several days, several weeks later, the crack came back. So he didn't call that particular contractor again. He called another gentleman and asked him to come and look at it and tell him if he could fix the crack in his wall. And the gentleman came in, he looked at it, and he looked at it, and he looked at it, and he studied it from all kinds of sides and ways and stuff. He says, yeah, I can fix it, but it's going to come back. He said, well, then what do you mean? How are you going to fix it if it's going to come back? He said, there's nothing wrong with the crack. It's your foundation that's off. So regardless of how many times you fix that, if the foundation is not evened out like it's supposed to be, you're going to still have that same problem. And that's what's wrong with our families. Our foundation is off. Right. Now, here, I have to go spiritual. That's the only way I know. Please. Okay? All right. That's the only way I know. When we were put here as man and woman, we were given responsibilities to do certain things. The man did not follow through on what he was supposed to do. He was beguiled by Eve, and then he blamed Eve, but he didn't have to eat the apple. You understand what I'm coming from? So it's the same situation. You guys know that what you are doing is not right. I don't mean you two, I mean the other ones. They know it's not right. It doesn't even feel right. So when you do it, you get angry because now you're doing something that you know is not about your manhood. It's not about what you should be doing. So you're trying to get your stripes. But that even when you get them, then you're not satisfied because that's not what it's all about for you. Right. So you have to fix the foundation. People ask me all the time about when I'm in a training, when I went in training with men, all men, I'll ask them, how old should your daughters be when they start dating?
33.
How old?
33.
Okay. What about you, Verb?
Like full on dating them by themselves with a man. I guess man, that's a tough one. I have two daughters, and we had this conversation, and I want them to foster healthy relationships in the teenage phase because it happens. You know, I might say, well, I can go to a little movie, but I want to monitor and I want to be with those same parents and saying, hey, they seem like they talking a little bit. Like, I don't want to just keep her locked up. I don't want to keep either of my daughters locked up. Say 15, 16, go to the mall with your friends. This little boy she like, I know that we got to let them. So maybe 15, 16, I guess they were kind of like, I ain't saying it got to be a candlelight dinner at somewhere, but
Maggiano's.
Yeah, they over there renting RSVPing at 16. I don't know about that, but you know, I get it. You know, human interact. People start dating 15, 16. I like her and she like me. We go to the little movies together and we see. I get it. So maybe 15, 16.
Okay, let me say this. What was you doing when you was 15, 16?
I already know. That's what I said. I know what time it is. I get it.
Earlier than that.
You know what I'm saying?
You understand what I'm saying? Well, that's not what you want for your daughters. That's not what you want for your daughters.
No, that's not what I want. But I also don't want them to be so locked down that they just feel like, well, dad ain't gonna never let us. Because they might not really be doing that. But I didn't trap them and say, you can't go nowhere. You can't be around nobody. I want them to get a feel for life, but in a controlled way.
And how do they get that?
Sometimes it's trial and error, but I'm also going to teach them and talk to them and sit them down and say, you can always talk to me. This is what, you know, we talk about, you know, how you should be treated, about, you know, reproduction. You know, we talk about all those things and say, hey, look, I'm telling you up front, this is what happens when you're an adult. These are the responsibilities you have. If I had a son or daughter, I'll let them know the same things, and I will let them know, like, this is how I feel as a parent. Like, you shouldn't be doing X, Y, Z. But I know at the same time, I don't want to. I'm trying to find that sweet spot, that balance. You know, I don't want to restrict all their. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. I don't want you talking to nobody. Is that your friend? Are you sure that's your friend? Because I think that boy might like it. It's a tough situation to be in, because then, especially in this day and era where you have 7 different points of contact. You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I get faced with this situation because I have 2 daughters and a son. Mm-hmm. And my oldest daughter, she's 15. She'll be 16 in December. And she's at that stage in her life where she's interested in boys, and boys are taking an interest in her, and she's in high school. And, you know, I like you said, I know what I was doing at that age, you know, and, you know, what, you know, I was up to. And I just, you know, you don't want that for your child.
That's right.
And but like Verb was saying, without putting the shackles on them, you want to hold off that period as much as long as possible. You want to delay that particular period in their growth development for as long as possible, because you already know what it entails, what comes with that, with that coming of age thing, So
Okay.
it's so I would say 33.
You want my answer? Let me give you my answer.
What's your answer, Miss Benita?
Please.
49 if I had my way. Okay. At least 30, seriously. And the reason why I say that is because at 16, they are still kids.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure.
People don't understand that we really don't go into our adulthood until we're like 26.
Right.
So 18 is just a number. They're not grown at 18. They don't know anything about taking care of themselves. They don't know what this world is out here.
Sure.
But at least at 33, like you say, or 26, at least they've gotten their education. That's the thing that you need to really impress on both the boys and the girls. Get your education. You'll have plenty of time for women or boys, whichever way it goes. You'll have plenty of time to do that. But get your education. One of the things I know because of my life myself, I had a very low self-esteem of myself when I was in elementary, junior high, and high school. Very low self-esteem. Very low self-esteem. I really didn't get self-esteem until I was 32.
I heard that. She's being modest now, y'all. She's being modest.
No, seriously. Till I was 32. I really was dealing with how I looked, how I presented myself. Because the boys, when I was in elementary school, because that's when they start dating. I mean, that's when they start messing around. Well, how do I say it? That's when they started liking boys, okay, and liking girls, all right? Okay, that's too young.
It should become peaked.
Yeah, but I'm still a kid. Remember this? But I noticed that all my girlfriends, which we were all about the same age because we were in the same grade, they all had boyfriends. I didn't have a boyfriend. So I thought there was something wrong with me. I didn't find out until I was in my in my mid-30s that it wasn't because there was anything wrong with me. It was because most of them were afraid of my father. Okay? And my father was only here 3 months out of the year, really. I traveled with him. My father was a musician. And so until I was in school, I traveled with him and my mom. And once I started school, my mom stayed home with me so I could go to school. But they were afraid of my father. They didn't know what he would do with me because my father was involved in my life and they weren't accustomed to that.
Right on.
Okay, my father was in my life until he died in 1975. He and my mom. And the cute thing about them is that they only knew each other 10 days before they got married.
Oh, wow.
That was in 1937.
And how were they when they got married, Miss Benita, if you don't mind me asking?
My mother was, my father was 32, and my mother was my father? Wait a minute. They were married 11 years before I was born.
Okay.
And so I was born in 46. So they were married in 35. My mother was born in 14.
Wow.
So she was 21. And my father he was born in 10. So he was 37. I think that's how it goes. I'm messing up my addition, but y'all understand.
Yeah, but
okay?
I hear you.
We got it.
It's just so hard. I think it's just so hard, and I hear exactly what you're saying. And I want my girls. I want them to focus on school and do all that. And that's the problem. And that's what we talking about with Brother Real. It's so tough. I said I'm not looking forward to those 15, 6-year-old ages where it's like you can't do this or you can't go here, and it's like, Dad, I don't want. And it's like, oh man, she just snuck out, or I should supposed to be one place and she not here. And we all do that. And I think it's important. I think that's really important. Why you do need to be like you do need to be a father of come talk to me, let's talk about it, because I think sometimes like when you know somebody really loves you and you let them down, like that's the worst feeling. Like if like it's one thing to be like I'm gonna put my hands on you, that type of stuff. Okay, yeah, but if it's just like, yo, you really disappointed me, like, you know what, like I'm really hurt, like I'm sad, like people feel that. They like, man, like, so you want to like, nah, I just don't want to talk about it right now. We'll talk tomorrow. It's like I can see my daughters like that. They like that now, even at the age like, Daddy, did I make you sad? I said, yeah. I said, well, not you didn't make me sad, but I said stop doing that, and you did, and they really feel they want to come give me a hug. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. You know, and I didn't have to put my hand. I didn't do none of that. I didn't raise my voice too loud. It's just like, I asked you that. Okay, but I'm just gonna sit over here. And they already like, oh no, we go clean up. We go clean it, Daddy. We go clean up. I said, and I think that's a big part of it, and having that relationship. So I'm fostering that relationship now, so when they do reach that age, I can let them know, like, hey, look, I worry about you. I want to make sure y'all safe. Like, just let me know where you at. And I'm the kind of person real, you know me, I'm quiet, but I don't have no problem telling no boy something. Hey,
you're not supposed to have a problem telling them something.
Well, but one of the things
with the quickness,
you know me, real know me. I don't. You know me. I don't often get, a two. But right. When I do, it's kind of like,
oh
man, okay, let me I said, hey, look, I don't want to catch y'all peeking and trying to sneak in no windows. Yeah, I used to be in the military. I don't want no problems. Okay.
That's what cool. The question I was getting ready to ask. Fathers don't understand that you got to show that love to your daughter that you want somebody else to show.
Yeah.
So that she understands what that is.
Yeah.
My wife,
they understand.
Yeah.
My wife always stresses that point to me because I'm very hard on my oldest daughter, because for 8 years she was my only child, and then within a year's time, from 2012 to 2013, I had 2 more children, but for 8 years, she was by herself. She was by herself, and a lot of her personality comes from being around her mother and I. So she's got a lot of her mother's persona, a lot of my persona. She's very flippant, very quick, very witty. It's irritating.
Look in the mirror.
Right, exactly.
Right,
exactly. And I'm proud of her because she has a real intelligence that I'm not sure she's even understanding how to tap into, because she's smart. She's very smart. And again, her dialect or her intelligence level has come from being the only child for 8 years. She could sit when she was 7, 8 years old. She could have a conversation with an adult. You know what I'm saying? And you would forget you were talking to a child because she was that in tune with the conversation. She was that astute with the language. Mm-hmm. So it's the dynamic of being father, parent versus disciplinarian is a very fine line that I have to tread, that I have to walk every day. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I try not to. Again, I know what those streets are about. I know how they work. I know how they move, and she's ignorant in that regard. I mean, she thinks she knows because she's a millennial, and she thinks she's got it all figured out at 15, 13, right. 14.
Right.
15,
that's why I was saying
15.
49 if I had my way.
Ain't no teen in there, at that point.
Right.
Up until 19, you're still a teenager.
Teen, that's right.
So, trying to get her to understand that is a bit nerve-wracking. And my wife said, look, you gotta show her a little bit more patience. You gotta show her a little bit more understanding, because when it comes to men, and you want to protect her from this guy, that situation, but at some point she's gonna end up with a man and you want the man that she ends up with to be a good man.
Right.
And the way she picks a good man is given to her through you.
Right.
So right now, when you were speaking on it, you know, my wife is listening, and you know, she almost hit a double gainer off the couch, pointing at me. Told you.
Oh, look at you! I got you! Look, I got you!
See? So I just, you know, it's not that I don't understand it. It's just that as a man, I know what boys want.
Exactly.
I know it. I know it's one thing only. And
that's right.
And it's not about a relationship.
That's right.
You know.
Back to those notches.
So, and you know, you have to raise your, you know, when you have children, you have to raise your sons differently than you raise your daughters.
Of course.
Because your son will come home and say, "Dad, I got this girl pregnant," and you'll be like, "Okay, son, okay, we got to sit down and talk about this." But your daughter comes home and says, "Dad, I got pregnant," and then the sweat starts pouring, and you're like, "I'm gonna kill him." You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna kill you. So it's you know, it's a very fine line that fathers have to tread between parenting and being a disciplinarian, you know, because I don't want to be overly heavy-handed, but I can't be too light-handed either. Does that make sense?
I'm gonna tell you something though. You said when your son comes home and says, "Dad, I got this girl pregnant."
Right.
Your reaction is totally different from when your daughter comes home.
Unfortunately,
right?
I mean, I'm being, you know.
I understand.
Hold
up. Your responsibility, my brothers, is to teach your son not to go get somebody pregnant.
Exactly.
Because whoever they're getting pregnant is somebody else's daughter.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
So he needs to have an education in order to take care of his child.
Sure.
That's really important because that's how that child's going to learn the same thing you're trying to teach your kids. Your grandkids need that same information. But it all begins with you. You have to meet every boy your child, your girl likes.
Oh, yeah.
Think she likes. Because first of all, she don't really know him. It's like for adults in particular, go through my cycle. You might remember my cycle, Dion. The hooking in. There's 5 things that build relationships. The first thing is what the person looks like. Because if they don't look like something that you want to talk to, you're not going to talk to them. And I don't care how they come on to you. You're going to say, "I don't want you."
Right.
The second is how they smell. Because I don't care how good they look. If they stink, you're not going to have anything to do with them. The third is what they're saying. And this is where we get into trouble. Because they're going to say the things that they think you want to hear to hook you in, and you're going to respond with the things that you think they want to hear to hook them in. So now you got a falsified relationship on what looks good, smells good, and sounds good. Then all of a sudden, you start seeing what feels good. The last one is taste. I know you're going like, what is she talking about? These are your 5 senses. That's how we get involved in relationships. We don't know the people because we haven't taken time to find out about them. I was talking to somebody today, and she says that her niece had just been arrested for hitting her husband. He has hit her on numerous occasions, but the police weren't called. So there is no paper trail as to her needing to have to defend herself.
Right. Right now, she
hit him, and he calls the police. She gets arrested. So I asked, I said, "Well, how old is she?" She said, "She's 37. I said, "Lord, have mercy." Okay. And then I had to ask a whole lot of other questions. Now, the reason why I asked that is because I was trying to figure out what's going on. Again, when I said earlier that we have to love ourselves,
right?
We just don't go for what's between the legs, regardless of which gender it is.
Indeed.
Because again, we think that's love. But see, love is like, picture a cake. Love is a cake. The cherry on the top of the cake, that's the love. But you got to put the cake together first. I'm not talking about Duncan Hines. I'm not talking about Betty Crocker. I'm talking about from scratch.
Right.
Yeah, that's real.
The right amount of flour, the right amount of milk, the right amount of sugar, the right amount of baking powder, the right amount of everything. Because if you don't, it's not going to work.
Sure.
And that's how we put our relationships together on what looks good, smells good, sounds good, feels good, and tastes good. And it don't work. Are you aware that 72% of the children that are born to Black women are born out of wedlock?
Ooh, didn't know the numbers, but I know I recognize yeah, it makes sense.
72%. That shouldn't be. That's why we are so disconnected. That's because our foundation is shot.
Sure. They're more concerned with being baby daddy and baby mama than husband and wife. Because
it look good, smell good, sound good, taste. You see what I'm saying? So that's not a family.
Right.
That's really not a family.
Right.
And that's what's messing us up, is because we don't have a family structure to give us the security that we need and to help us understand what it is we're supposed to do. Yes, sir.
Bernita, okay, now we've looked at the dynamics of of what creates a bad relationship or could lead to domestic violence through the lens of the man. What about for the woman? Because I just counseled this young lady, and she's completing in a couple of weeks. She's completing, and she's got an open DCFS case, and it's open right now, but it's not where the court's not involved directly.
Okay. But
it's around the corner, and she's only got one child by the second dude, but the first guy she was with, or the first real relationship she was in, was abusive, and she was going round and round with that guy, and then the second guy, which is her child's father, was beating her up and disrespecting her, cheating on her, but at no time did she ever marry either one of these guys. They were never that, and why do women continue? Because I had to ask her, I said, well, do you see the pattern? Because you've had two men that you've left that you're not with, and it's based on domestic violence or relationship dynamics that led up to domestic violence. Why do women continually pick the same type of guy to get involved with when they've had the experience in the first relationship? You dig? And I understand because I learned this from you, that the victim still loves the perpetrator. They just want the pain to stop. But what is it that draws this person, this victim survivor, back into the lion's den?
It's the lack of training. It's a lack of training, because they're still going by what looks good, smells good, sounds good, feels good, and tastes good. Right. So it's a lack of training. It's a lack of loving themselves. Once they start loving themselves, they won't be looking for somebody else to love them.
Gotcha.
They will wait for that man to find his woman.
Indeed.
Okay? Or his mate, or her mate, whichever the case may be, because I'm not labeling anybody.
No.
Okay? But to find the mate. Okay? So once we're secure in ourselves, but people are telling us, oh, honey, you look good. Oh, I sure would like to take care of you. I'd like to put you in a 2-story house with a 3-car garage and buy you some, buy you some furs and some Gucci and some whatever, type of thing. And we fall for it.
Yeah.
And then for men, we're like, honey, I sure would like to have your children. I bet I could make your breakfast every morning and cook your dinner every night and make your house so. You fall for it because you want that.
Mm-hmm.
But they need to be secure in who they are. If they're not secure in who you are, it's not going to work. Because you're going for one thing. That's what feels good.
Indeed.
What feels good. And all that does is just mess it up.
Yeah.
Seriously. It just mess it up.
Okay?
It up. Because years ago we were there used to be a bar on the 5 Torches on Imperial and Crenshaw. It was my brother's. I know you had to think about that one, huh? That was a long time ago. It was my brother's retirement, and we all went in there after his retirement. He had been with the LA Unified for like 30 years. So we all went in there for the retirement, and there was a gentleman that was sitting there at the bar with a few of us that were sitting there, and he asked the question. He says, what's the first thing you look at in a man? And I could hear the women that were sitting beside me say, the females that were sitting beside me say, what he's packing. And I was like, what?
Yep.
We are so caught up in that.
What feels good?
What feels good. We are so caught up in that. And it's not about that. Because we got a whole lot of babies out there that was because of what the person was packing.
What feels good?
What feels good?
What feels good. So there's some responsibilities that we have to do. If we're going to change what's going on, we have to change ourselves. We have to do better. We do better, we know better, we do better.
Sure.
Okay, and that takes time. That's why I was talking about the support groups with you guys, so that you guys can get with it, to be able to work with those young men that you were talking about, to have those type of programs, because they don't know. Most of them are coming from single mother families.
Sure.
And their men are not around. And just like you said, Verb, about your father was there, but there was no emotional stuck there. Because in his mind, he was only supposed to bring the money home to take care of the household. And, and then the rest of you just did what it was that you needed to do. But he needed to give you some advice about being a man. But he couldn't because his father did not give it to him.
Right.
So we have to get back to the foundation.
Sure, definitely.
Verb,
definitely.
I want to move on. Did you want to piggyback on?
No. I'm just listening. She dropping some gems. I'm just listening. I'm sitting back like, okay. I'm soaking it all in. I'm like, okay. I might have to watch a little documentary or something after I get off.
Right.
She's saying some stuff. She said some stuff. I'm listening. I'm just like, okay. Like I'm soaking it all in. I mean, because I'm a parent.
Even with your daughter that you was talking about. Real quick. Let me say this for both of you.
Yeah.
For your daughter, you got to give them positive love, discipline. My father, let me tell you, my father spanked me. He didn't even spank me. He hit me one time in my whole life. And that was when I was 7 years old, because we were in Providence, Rhode Island, and they will forget it. And when we got into the kitchenette, because my father was going to be there for a period of time working, I ran in and jumped up on the bed. I don't jump on beds. I've never jumped on beds. And I don't know why I wanted to jump on that bed. And my mother said, Bernita, stop it. Bernita, stop it. And I kept doing it. And my father heard her tell me to stop it. And he came in and he said, didn't you hear what your mother said? He took his suspenders and he hit me with the suspenders. And I yelled like I was dead. Seriously. And he saw a mark on me from the claps. It was on the suspenders. And he saw it. He grabbed me. Oh, baby, I'll never hit you again. Daddy is so sorry. I will never hit you again. Never hit you again. And my father never did. My father really never raised his voice type of thing. Oh, he was mad at me when I did school. But he talked to me You see, he didn't call me out my name. He didn't tell me it was stupid. He asked me, why did you do it? See, we fail to ask the kids, because that's like with your son. Why did you do it? You know, well, I was doing it because I could give me some candy. Did you get the candy? No, then you shouldn't have done it. That was a waste of your energy, because you see you still don't have the candy.
Right.
You got to reason with the kids.
Right.
You got to get them to understand that.
Right.
You see, you really do. So that's with your daughters. You got to meet the kids that they're going out with. Not just meet them. You got to meet their parents.
Definitely. No, and
you got to meet their parents.
My daughter gets mad because I have, as a social worker, Verb and I, we work for DCFS. We work for the social service system. And even if I didn't work for the social service system, again, knowing how mean these streets are. And again, I'm a good father. I'm not just patting myself on the back. I don't want your friends in my house without knowing their names, and their parents knowing me and me knowing them. Their parents need to know where they're at, because if something goes wrong, they can't. It won't be said they were at some stranger's house where it went wrong at. No,
exactly.
Me and the parents need to meet. All that spending the night. This is not like it was when we were growing up. You know what I'm saying? You go spend the night down the street at your play cousin's house because your mom and their mom went to elementary school together. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It was a real community back then. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it's you got to know, you have to know, you must know who your children are befriending.
Yes.
Who their peers are and who the parents of their peers are, because it builds that symbionts, that synergy. It builds that collectiveness of the community. I think so.
Exactly, and because that's what we used to do, back in the day.
Sure.
Okay, I'm gonna be quiet. I won't talk no more about domestic violence.
No. We want to move on to the next. I know we're burning time now. Can we talk a little bit about your career, your previous career as a LAPD officer? Excuse me, sheriff's deputy. And how you feel about the social unrest we're going through right now, based on the spark, the murder of Brother Floyd, George Floyd, and those the other untimely murders of those other of Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and then the disillusionment of the brother in the park. Almost, you know what I'm saying? He was able to stand his ground, but that was a real lesson that we saw going on in that park between him and that lady. What's her name?
Her last name was the same as his.
Same as his. Yeah, they have the same last name.
They have the same last name. They're
Cooper.
I want to say Cooper, but
it is Cooper. It is Cooper.
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 Okay, yeah.
Right.
It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. That she just stood there and said, "I'm going to call the police and tell them that you're threatening to kill me."
You're a black African American who's threatening.
Yeah, African American man is threatening to kill me. I'm going like, oh my God. And she's the one breaking the law because she doesn't have a dog on a leash. And then she almost choked the dog to death. The
dog was looking like, hold up.
Yeah, he was like, ooh, let me get away from this one.
I have no part of this. So, as someone who's been directly involved with, policing the community, having to enforce certain laws, as well as protect and serve, how do you feel about what's going on right now? Just
I am very glad that this is going on right now. The exposure of how Blacks in particular have been mistreated over the years. I just shake my head because I've been gone from the department since 1978. And when I see things, I'm like, I can't believe that. What? I mean, it blows my mind for them to be like that. But I remember when I was on the department, back in 1982, 83, not when I was on the department, but in 1982, 83, when I already was started in domestic violence and I was doing some training, and they brought in the new law, the 273.5, and all of the officers, because there was
what's that law? I'm sorry, Benny, what was that?
That's the that's a domestic violence law, spousal abuse, 273.5.
Thank you.
PC, spousal abuse.
Thank you.
And so the officers had to be trained how to respond in a proper way.
Right.
And when I first walked into the classroom, they had this, I was teaching old timers, okay, that was still in patrol. And they didn't know that I was retired deputy sheriff. And I walked in, and I'm black, and most of them are white. I don't even remember any black person being in the class. And so they're sitting there, and the first question I asked them was, why do you think you have to go through this training? And they said, because if we don't, the department will get sued. I said, okay. I said, you got to go through it so that you know really how to respond and what domestic violence is all about. And then one of them shouted out, it was one female in the class, and she shouts out, we're not social workers.
Wow.
Ain't that something?
You know, and I went through that type of back and forth conversation with them until we went on the break. And when we went on the break, I was ready to leave. Because I was like, you know what? I can't reach them. So let me just leave. And what happened was God spoke to me and said, no, you're not going anywhere. You know what to do. Go back in there. So I went back in and I used my command voice. You know, I'm not going to use it with, you know, but you know, it's one of those things where you say,
yeah, like you
all right, straighten up, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, and that's exactly what they did. They straightened up in the seat. I said, listen, I don't think you understand who I am and why I'm doing this. Right. And I went on to explain to him, I'm a retired deputy sheriff just like you. I understand what's going on in the streets, blah, 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 blah. And so when they left with more than what they came in with, which was what they were supposed to.
Sure.
But they forget that, yes, you are supposed to enforce the law, but you enforce the law, not become a criminal while doing it. You enforce the law and make sure that individuals understand what's happening to them. I remember when my daughter was in the academy for LAPD, and she has to practice handcuffing someone. So I let her practice on me. And so she put the handcuffs on, and I told her, I said, okay, the handcuffs are too tight. She said, they're supposed to be tight. I said, why? She said, because you're a criminal. I said, take them off. She said, what? I said, first of all, I'm not a criminal. I'm a suspect. Wow. See, you have to give me the benefit of the doubt. I'm not a criminal. I'm a suspect.
Guilty till proven innocent.
Exactly. Innocent till proven guilty. So that's one of the things that the mindset that they keep talking about being trained. Okay. And just so happened that the captain that was in charge of the academy for LAPD, when my daughter was in there, was someone that I knew. And when it came around to when we had the family visit, and they asked, did the family have any questions? I said, yes, I do. And he says, oh, Lord, he is going, you know. I asked him about that. He says, we've changed it. We've changed it. I said, okay, because that's wrong. That's already leading them down the wrong path.
Right.
So things have to be changed. They need to be changed. The things that they're doing, strangulation, I asked some LAPD captains the other day. We had a meeting at Southwest. I'm just going to put it out there at Southwest. And I asked, I said, what kind of strangulation training do they get? And the person that was kind of helping them do the chat box that we have on Zoom, he said, Bernita, do you mean in domestic violence? I said, no. I'm talking about with dealing with individuals that they arrest. What kind of strangulation training are they getting? Because if you shake somebody's hand, just a power shake, just a strong shake, a manly shake, just a strong shake, that's enough to kill someone when you have their hands around their throat. And and he had him down for 8 minutes and 46 seconds.
Right.
With the pressure on.
Right.
See, this isn't anything to play with. And it made me so angry because I was like, get off of him. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, it's after the fact, but still.
I think we're all saying that.
Those types of things. So there is a way to control a suspect without doing all of that. Of course, you don't want to put yourself in harm's way. I remember the baby was it Inglewood? It may have not been Inglewood. It was somewhere though where there was a young man who was 13 years old. It was here in LA because we rose up about it. He was 13 years old and he was driving a stolen car. You remember that incident? Mm-hmm. And he pulled up in a gas station because they were chasing him. And they told him to get out of the car. And he didn't. And I can't remember the particulars, but he lost his life because he was in this stolen car. They had no idea how old he was. Mm-hmm. Okay. But that shouldn't have happened. There were enough officers there because he didn't have a gun that I can recall. There were enough officers there to contain the scene. So that was unnecessary. If you're too afraid to contain the scene the way it should be contained, then you need to get another job. You don't need to be on the department because you're putting other people's lives at risk.
Verb, let me ask this question and then I'll let you jump in, please, okay? I was working at the Torrance office, and we went to our the annual active shooter training. Verb, you've been through that, and we were being this particular training was being done by the Torrance sheriff, LAPD sheriff, and I said LAPD sheriff. I'm sorry, the Los Angeles Department. It was a deputy doing the training, and he said something, and I'm not sure he was even supposed to let this slip out. He was a young white cop, and he said, "You got to understand, when we get these calls over the radio, the information can be misleading because we just get black male, white T-shirt in this area, blah blah blah, and we roll with that information. And then when we get to this, we're already hyped up because we're on our heads on a swivel. We're looking. We don't know what we're getting into, and he said this. He said we're scared when we get there. He said that, and I'm like, my hand went up immediately. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I said, excuse me, officer, I appreciate what you just said, but did you say you're scared? He said, yeah, we're scared most of the time when we go into these situations that we don't know. Because the information we get over the radio can be misleading. So we don't know what we're getting ourselves, what we're rolling into. Right. But you put somebody like that in a very high intense situation, he's already got an idea of the person, the nationality of the person, or what the area the person lives in, or where the situation is going down in, and he's already empowered with the gun and the badge and the handcuffs and the patrol car with the lights. When they show up in that scene, their job is not, and this is just my opinion. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Bernita, please. Their perception is already skewed because they believe that the situation they're rolling into is whoever. You said you don't know this person's a criminal, but based on what you're hearing on the radio, you make your own. You come to with your own perception about it. This situation is being. This person's a criminal. Right. This person is a criminal, and when I get there, I'm going to treat him or her or them as criminals.
Okay.
Is that right? Is that fair?
No, as I said, they're suspect. Mm-hmm. And he's absolutely right. They don't give a lot of information out because they don't have a lot of information. They may say they robbed a store. Well, on most stores' doors, they have the height, so they can at least tell them how tall they are, what colors that they're wearing, give them general description. But it's a bunch of people that fit that general description.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So until they get the person and talk to them, find out where they're coming from. You know, there's a lot that goes into investigation. You just can't be so fast to shoot because you don't know. Just like the two babies that was sitting in the car, leaving the lockdown area, two college students
in Atlanta, yeah,
the girl and the boy, they break his window and tase him.
They popped his tires too.
I'm sorry.
I said they slashed his tires too. They popped the tires. They pulled it. They broke the windows.
Yeah.
Tased both of them. Pulled them out.
It wasn't necessary. They weren't doing anything but trying to get out of the area where they had closed it down. So they go too far. But that's that fear. That's that adrenaline that they're working on. Okay, that's got them moving. So they have to take time to really assess the situation. It could have been done a lot easier. It could have been done much better than the way that they did it. And those are the things that they're looking at. Those are the things that the lawmakers are looking at so that they can change some of these things to get it right as far as the training and things like that that they go through. And they have to.
To piggyback what you were saying, Real, I think that's when, a lot of bias comes into play. My niece, her boyfriend's going through his LAPD academy. He has people from out of state. So I'm like, they going to LAPD and they from out of state. So they probably heard all kinds of stories about, don't go to this part of LA. Don't go to this part of LA. And now, so they forming these opinions. And I got friends that are sheriffs also that are ex-military dudes. And I've been looking at these, like, somebody really gave you a badge and a gun? Like, I know you from the military. Like, you really, like, they got you out here on the street, like real talk. Like, I'm looking at them like, and now you living in Simi Valley or whatever, and the places, it's like a deployment. You treat it like a deployment. You don't have a connection with the people in this community. So, they just a bunch of lowlifes. Look how they living, this, and this. I'm going to treat them like this. I said, so you see a lot of bias, and then it's like a lot of the personalities they hiring, it's like they was salivating. They couldn't wait to put on that riot gear. They probably been walking by looking at it. Oh, we get to suit up today? Oh, we get to put it on? I get to bring out the armored personnel carrier? We can bring out this? I said, what you're seeing is the militarized police force coming out. I said, these are regular protests. These kids, a lot of them, I saw it was some kids. I'm like, y'all got the full, like, turtle shell with the helmet and everything. I said, okay, I get it. It can go down. I get it. But, like, they not even a threat right now. And they dropping canisters on them. Boom, boom, boom. Gassing them out. Using batons, hitting them. I'm looking like, but it's like you enjoying it. I said, some of these people, these personalities, I said, they enjoy it. They like that authoritarian, where they got that power and I can just crush you. They just the 75-year-old a white guy, they pushed him over, cracked his head, and they didn't render no aid to him or nothing. And then thankfully we had video because they try to say, oh, he tripped. But you pushing him over and he bleeding on the pavement, on live, on the video. And nobody stops to say, hey man, this dude hit his head. Like
one of them he tried to, but
his
the supervisor.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say.
Okay, his supervisor grabbed him by the collar and told him to go on.
And that's what I was gonna say, but that's that problem. And my mom's ex-law enforcement, she worked parole, so she started off in corrections, but then she was a parole agent. And I know I was in the military. I say it's very fraternal. It's like, oh, this is the culture of it. Well, no, I'm gonna treat these people. No, you can't be treated. We treat them like this. This is how we do things in this department. I said, so when you look at LAPD, you can look at the Rampart, you can look at Linwood, you can look at Newton, all that. I said, so when you hear these stories and you say, man, they was running a gang within the police department. I said, well, what's the code? And it kills me because I know some good brothers who have tried to become police officers, and they're like, man, they talk about my pops and my brother, he in jail, he used to gang bang. I'm looking like, so they don't want you to be. I like, you'll be perfect for the streets because you get it. You're not out here scared, but because of your affiliation or whatever you might have did in your past. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, that's why we're talking about the fact that those in law, wherever you are assigned, it should be an area that you are accustomed to. It should be an area that you understand the culture of there, so that you know what they're saying, how they're moving, so you can respond the right way. I live in the hood.
Yeah.
That's where I live. I live in the hood. I've lived in the hood all. I live in the house that my parents bought in 1944, 2 years before I was born.
Right on.
That's where I live.
Come on.
Okay.
Right on.
So I've been through the white flight thing, because when I was in elementary school, they put in the 110 freeway. That's when we lost a lot of the Caucasian people that lived in this area. All right. The school I went to was predominantly Black. The high school I went to, the junior high school I went to it was kind of mixed. My elementary school was mixed until they put in the freeway. So I've seen all that. I've even been through the South. I understand all of that. I spoke the language of those that I was around. You see, because we all, just like I was saying, we have to, you speak a different language than your kids speak.
Right.
That's why you have to get on their level in order to communicate with them and bring them up to help them become the adults that they are. It's the same with us. You have to be able to communicate with the people that you're with. My husband, I was sharing with him earlier today. There was an officer with LAPD doing the 65 riots, and he was policing the Jordan Downs area, because you know that's where it started, like on 103rd, right, Central. So anyway, he was policing that area, and he took out. There was a runner that they went after to get him, and he got clotheslined running through the backyards at the project. When he lost his breathing, he passed out. His nightstick went one way, his gun went another way. He's out cold. What I'm told, one of the most dangerous not criminals, but one of the most dangerous brothers in that area saw him, and because he was a good cop, he got his weapon, he got his nightstick, put him down next to him, got his walkie-talkie, and called for him to get some help, because he was always fair. And that's the attitude. You ask, how do you do it? You go in with the mindset of, I'll treat them the way I want to be treated if I was in their shoes.
Big guy.
Okay? So that's that true. Way you got people, they'll watch for you if you're fair.
Right.
But the ones that are not fair, they don't care anything about you.
Real quick, and I think that's the biggest problem in America. And I have conversations with a lot of non-Black folks, and for some, I'm gonna just say some white people, some Caucasian folks. It's like you cannot. I know it's an intellectually dishonest argument, because I know you can, but in order to have this argument, because you go push this narrative because you want what you're saying to be right.
Sure.
I don't care what tax bracket. We all want the same things as fathers. We want our kids to be safe. We want to provide, live healthy lives. I said, so I don't understand how you don't put imagine if that's your grandmother or that's your wife, and somebody come to your house telling you need to come out the house right now, and they push your wife on the ground. And as a man, you would look and say, dude, like, hey, as this is my home. This is where I live at. Like, I'm gonna protect my family, my kids. Like, you can't just come in here just grabbing people. What's going on? Right. So this is the number one thing. I had a conversation with somebody, and I got in a big old argument. Oh, this and this. I said, well, remember we talked about that last time, D. I said, well, I go back to when you talk about the Boston Tea Party and no taxation without representation. I said, you don't want these British. They didn't want them British soldiers just come with they kicking in their doors. I'm standing away. I said, and you got all that stuff on your wall, and he's a patriot, and life, liberty, and happiness and freedom. And I'm like, well, what about me when I'm saying those same things? It's different though. I said, that's strange. I said, so you had a bunch of people that was ready to fight because they felt like some individuals were infringing on their rights. But then you don't understand the concept of me feeling like somebody's infringing on my rights. I said, it's amazing how the person, how the one dishing out the tyranny, it's perspective.
They can't see it.
Never get this.
They can't see it.
Right.
They can't see it.
They can never
see it. Well, if I do that, I'll get killed. I said, you come into the situation wrong. Remember we did that implicit bias training with the brother. I don't remember the brother's name, but it was a really. So in this training, he was on point. They had a lot of blind studies, so we got to see.
That's
had
my
a lot.
dog. They
Okay.
doing. I put it on mute.
Okay, he doing this little thing. but during that training, when they was doing their surveys, we got to get a peek inside some of these people's brains. When they said, well, when you think of black male, what do you think of? I'm some criminal, a gang member. I'm like, man, like that's how you really think about us. I was like, America as a whole has really done a job on the image of the black man and the black woman. Like, so if you're not around us and you can tear that bias down, like, and then you get somebody a badge and they don't have the cultural competencies. It's like, dude, that's a dangerous situation. That is very explosive, and I'm seeing that with this situation with the uprising. They weren't being peaceful. I'm like, yeah, they're not peaceful after you didn't clock somebody upside the head. It's not gonna be peaceful. What do you?
Exactly.
You already going in there ready to knock heads over because you can't even relate. Oh, everything is fair. They out there on some false premises anyway, so I'm gonna go there and just clean everything up and clock some heads. I'm tired of looking at them.
Ain't that
one of the trainings that they do get is cultural awareness. They do get that. Okay, they get the training,
right?
But actually being able to put it into operation to apply is different,
right?
Because we're all different.
Sure,
100%.
We're all different, and they can't see that, so that they put us all in one box and say, well, the color of your skin say you're gonna act this way.
Right.
Oh, that's it.
And it's easy.
And when they get these radio calls, that's the impression they roll on.
Rambo.
Where's the problem at? Or like you said, on 103rd and Central. Okay, well, we know what goes on over there. Get the ride.
Automatically bad guy.
Automatically bad guy. Everybody over there is a bad guy.
Yep, they all on drugs.
Woman, child.
Yeah, they all on
everybody a thug. Everybody is.
Everyone's an animal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a sad situation.
That's what has to be changed. And the only way you're going to do that is that we have the conversations. We have the law enforcement officers, and not just the ones that you see that are what we call SLOs, senior lead officers, the captains, and things like that. It's about the patrol officers, because those are the ones that are going out there. Those are the ones that you're going to have that communications with, that interaction with.
So Ms. Benita, so real quick before we move on. So what do you think would be a real revolutionary way to handle this? Like a real change? You think they need to change their hiring practice, start more community policing, and start maybe opening it up and make sure they're getting a lot more diverse hires from different backgrounds?
We're supposed to. That's what it's supposed to be about, to get the diverse. The problem is that when they do background checks, and you have several minor incidents, they don't look at when you had them. Boom. They don't look at what occurred.
Exactly. Yeah,
you see what I'm saying? It's just that you had this incident. So that becomes a focal point instead of you being able to get on.
Right. You need policy changes.
I was really blessed. Seriously, I was really, well, again, I feel that God put me there. He opened that door for me to be there. So I got a chance to see a lot of things. I'm kind of a bold individual too.
Yeah, well, I can only imagine. I said, especially during those times, it was the 60s. I said, you had a lot of different things going on.
It was right in the middle of the civil rights.
That's what I'm saying. So they probably looking at you, and they probably looking at you thinking, is she trying to infiltrate? She got this natural. She coming in. Who is this? She trying to infiltrate. She trying to
I didn't go in with it. Now know this. I didn't go in with it.
You said, make sure you got your radios. We don't need
no, I used to get my hair fried and all that kind of stuff. All right. Right. And I had a little problem with the issue with my scalp. So the doctor said, cut your hair off. And I'm saying, no, I can't wear a wig. I cut my hair. I did cut my hair, and I tried to wear a wig, and I just kept scratching it right on off of my head. So I had a lieutenant that was really, really nice, and she came in. My sergeant saw me scratching, and so she said, well, take your wig off. I said, She said, you got a comb? I said, yeah, but I'm not taking my wig off. So she went and got the lieutenant, who happened to be the captain that night, acting captain. And so she came in and just started talking to me and everything. And then she said, I understand you have a natural. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, well, take your wig off and comb your hair. I go like, ma'am, I was like You sure you want me to do that?
Right.
You know, because I was working 11 nights to 7 in the morning, right? So I said, okay. So I took it off, and I had never been as afraid as I was that day, that morning after the inmates got up, because I was working what's called minimum security. I had never been afraid doing my job except for that day, because if you hold your keys, that means you're scared. And I didn't hold my keys. I used to walk with my hands behind my back, you know, to show that I was securing myself. And the inmates were going like, look, Miss Mac got a natural. Go on, Miss Mac. My name was McClendon back then. Go on, Miss Mac. I'm going like, okay, y'all, cool it. Shh. You know, I'm trying to hide.
You're like, right on. So
you.
They like, right on. You like, oh, okay.
And they was like, yeah, Miss McClendon is cool, you know.
My pick.
That's a beautiful thing, though. It's a testament to how far we come. Just wearing your hair how it grows out your head was like a revolutionary act. Like you had to come in.
Big
That's
seriously.
Wife,
you know, we're still going through that. You know, they just passed laws. The latter part of last year, the first part of this year, about your hairstyles.
This is what
for
I'm
Black
saying.
women.
So this when you look at that through the scope of everything, they saying, well, we just want equal rights. Like you can't even wear your hair the way you want to wear your hair. So when I'm talking to you about beating me down, I'm like this. And when somebody sit there and say, no, I just don't see it. I'm like, they got to put in this day and age, we still trying to fight to wear our hair the way we want to wear it.
Okay.
And I'm like, we got to make it's time for progress. I said, that's
I'm loving the commercials now. I mean, you know, they just wear it in any kind of way.
Oh, yeah. People waking up. They waking up. They waking up because now I think we kind of flexing a little power. I said, I went out. I've been out a couple of times. I said, I see people. They smiling a little extra hard. All right, how you doing? Right on, right on. I'm like, hey, right back at you. But but it's a certain thing. Like I saw football players. I mean, they didn't stand with cap. Some of these guys, but these were some of the top guys. I don't know if you saw Odell Beckham and Ezekiel Elliott. Some of the top guys. They made a video. They put the NFL on blast. Like, hey, look.
Yeah, I'm a football fan.
Yeah, right. So
I'm football, basketball, track. Right. So track.
So you see it. So we the batteries for the machine. And these guys are saying, we get
don't go without us.
And I'm asking for a bare minimum. I said, when somebody say, hey man, can you just stop killing me? There should be no but. Like, oh man, but no. Hey man, can you stop beating me up? But no.
Yeah, but
and
I remember years ago, Chris Rock, he said that the athletes, the Black athletes, were still in slavery.
Yeah.
There's a book.
Okay.
There's a book.
For the schools, where the colleges that they went to and everything, it was all a part of the slavery. Look how long it took for us to get a Black quarterback.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're not smart enough. You can't lead nobody.
Okay.
Yeah.
The first one I remember was James with the Rams. I can't call his last name right now, but his first name was James. James Williams. Okay, my husband said Williams. Gilliam?
Ty, you didn't know that one?
No, that's a baseball player. I'm talking about a football player.
I didn't know. I mean, I know Doug Williams.
This was way before Doug. This was before Doug.
Was he before Warren Moon?
Yeah, that's before Warren Moon.
This was before Warren Moon. Yep, it's not Gilliam.
Later, you got the Randall Cunningham. This is Warren Moon.
Right.
Yeah, this is way back. I'd have to figure it out. But yeah, so it was. I'm excited when I see a Black quarterback. I'm excited when I see a Black coach. Okay?
Right.
Because phenomenal individuals that never got a chance. One of the things I wanted to say is I have a real issue. I have a real issue when we talk about different races. That's a problem with me because there's only one race, the human race. There are different ethnicities within the human race, but God only made one race, the human race. See, so we've got cultures within cultures. Just because we're all just because we all have brown skin, or black skin, however you want to call it, we don't all have the same culture.
Right.
Because you born on the East Coast is different from the people that's born on the West Coast. It's different from the people that's born in the South. It's different from people that are born in other areas. Just because we have the same color skin, we don't have the same culture. And people don't understand that. This is a melting pot of everybody. I've seen individuals whose skin is white that have the culture that I have. I've seen them that are Native American that have the culture that I have. You know, so we're different, but we're all the same. We're all human beings with different ways that we are raised. Because again, I go back to what I said earlier. We're products of our environment. We only know what we've been taught. We've only know what we've been exposed to. And it could be different within your family, with your children. All of your children are not the same.
Right.
They're all born at different times, so they're seeing different things. You're treating them differently because of the fact that you learned from the first one what to do with the second one. You learn with the second one what to do with the third one. You see what I'm saying?
And so on. Sure, definitely.
So we're all individuals. We're all individuals. We're not the same. But people want to just put us in the same pot, and it doesn't work that way.
And yeah, I totally get it. And I totally understand that philosophy. It's just unfortunate that we don't all come from the same culture. We don't all come from the same environment so that we can share that ideology. Because there's a certain genre, I'll say, in this wilderness that we call America, that has pervaded throughout centuries, of human history here. And it's racism. Mm-hmm. It's racism. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate that this so-called great country was born from it. Mm-hmm. It's pillared on it, mm-hmm. and left unchanged, it will die on it.
That's right.
And that's what we're seeing right now with this worldwide civil unrest. I think it's finally hit. I mean, it was sparked with. I mean, it should have been sparked a long time ago. You said you spoke about 1619. We all know that was the beginning of slavery in America, in this country, and but it was almost a culture to put us down. And to piggyback on what Verb was saying, it's like it's commonplace for us to be, we just put down. We're the target. Property. We're the target. We're the target for insult. We're the target for low income. We're the target for low employment. We're the target for shady housing, poor education, and so on.
We don't have any feelings.
Right. Why should we be cared about when we don't care about anything in any way? And again, it shouldn't be that way. But right now, America is getting a clear view of how the people who don't want that type of culture in America feels about it. Mm-hmm. And it's not just, and I can say this because I've been closely watching this whole situation unfold. And as a Black man, I can say, I see that my white brothers and sisters, my Spanish brothers and sisters are out there, getting it in for me. So getting it in for Brother Floyd and Sister Breonna Taylor and Sister Aubrey, Ahmaud Arbery, and so on. For Brother Emmett Till, Brother Medgar Evers, Brother Malcolm, Brother Martin, and all those other sisters that pushed through the civil rights movement, and so on. And those, we can, and I'm the first one to say, man, I don't trust easily. I'm saying? I don't trust easily. Me and Verb, we talk about this all the time. Yeah. And he'd be like, "Deep, easy," because I have a tendency I go off on tangents, and I'd be like, and so I have to pull, and my man has a tendency to pull me back, and I get a chance to see through this civil unrest that we're seeing right now, that we're going through right now, what those brothers and sisters who look like me saw on the front lines of the civil rights movement back then, when those white brothers and sisters were on those buses and getting bombed and getting attacked for our cause. So I get it. You know what I'm saying? We want the rest of the world who do not look like us to get it as well.
Right.
It's unfortunate that, I'm gonna be honest, I just don't see it. You know, I don't see that
coming.
You know,
it's gonna happen.
I pray.
Exactly. Because he's in charge.
Yeah.
He's in charge. He's allowing this to happen for a reason, so that it will get the way it should be.
Sure. And I'm gonna be totally honest, Sister Benita, I don't know what that reason is. I'm gonna sit back and wait, but at the same time, I'm gonna do my part to educate my kids.
Exactly.
Hear them, you know, and
exactly.
and strengthen them and empower them, because when they're confronted with that hate, I want them to know how to, you know, how to move through it. You dig what I'm saying, Brother Verb? I want them to know how to move through it. You and I both have daughters and sons, and we want our children to not have to endure what we've endured for the last 37, 50 years on this earth, because they didn't have to.
Yeah,
right. It's up to you to teach them. It's up to you to teach the other brothers about it. It's up to y'all to get together and talk about it and come up with something that's applicable to what is going on in the area that you're in.
Sure.
And then to expose them to the rest of the country. Sure. You see, and give them an idea. But it's work. And see, being parents is work. It's not just having a child and making sure they got food and clothes and that they go to school. No, it's work. You got to spend time with your children. Definitely. In order to give them the foundation that they need. Definitely. So that they don't get caught in the mess that's out there.
It's out there too.
Okay.
All right. I think we've covered a lot of topics. Verb, is there anything else we want to talk about?
No, just to piggyback. Just to piggyback on what y'all both said. I think that's important. I think when we talk about the situation going on now, I say, you see, I mean, because we know at the end of the day, race is a social construct. We realize that. And it's a shame that people have used that in a manipulative manner for their own agenda. Okay, and that's wrong.
That way.
Right, but what I'm seeing a lot of, you've seen a coalition of everybody. Because people are tired. They like, I don't want to raise my kid in this type of world. Like, you see, and that's the first thing they say. And they say, well, you know, my brother-in-law, he's black. You know, my kids, like, her best friend is black. Like, we and then with us,
it's like, connectable.
It's connectable. And they saying, hey man, I don't want to live in a world where it's okay to kill him, because then it's gonna be okay to kill me as well. Let's you know, I don't want to live in a militarized world where we gotta go checkpoint to checkpoint and I can't say the wrong thing. I can't, because it all tumbles down here. We all have a social contract. We say, no, we're better than this. My tax dollars should be spent on much better things than firing bullets at some teenagers because they're saying, hey man, you're suffocating me. And I think people they're disgusted by it, because they're like, they really say, hey man, we want to live in a world where I want him to be able to come hang out with me and enjoy the basketball game and make it from here to home without being harassed. I think that's fair. Like, so the ways of old, I see a lot of people, and there's a lot of people who are still sitting in a lot of positions, and it's like even with some of the people that are still working in government, you know, they talk about, oh, I was around back then, and you could tell back then they probably wasn't with it anyway. It was like, so now it's now they seeing it again, and they're like, oh, we'll deal with it the same way we dealt with it back then. It's like, no, you're not.
No, you're not.
You can't. It's a different time.
It's a different time.
You're going to hear that. You're going to hear that when you listen to. I'm sorry for the fireworks. They're doing fireworks around.
Oh,
it's a different time.
And our elders are guiding us.
Reverend Al Sharpton was talking about that, and I know you've seen some of those clips when he said this is a different time. It's not like that before. You got everybody that's involved. Those that are fighting against it, those are the ones that are the white nationalists, the KKK, you know, those individuals, and they're getting ready to lose their positions.
That's what it is.
They're already losing. They're already losing.
Verb, we talk about
Because
that all the time.
don't get me started on that. I look at
That's what it is.
MSNBC and CNN. I miss all my. I'm taping everything, trying to see it. You know.
Yeah, it's a temper tantrum. This is what you're throwing because you feel like you losing pop because you just can't see here and see
Speak on
this
it.
10 group of people. They all
don't get me started.
Yeah, it's like well, this was the way the system was, and it gave me an advantage to say, well, man, you know, now your boss is a woman. It's a black woman who's in charge now. No, I just can't go to work. Like I can't do it. No, I said, well, she's fair. She's not. No. If my grandfather or somebody was a see it now and I'm not running the company and she's running the company, he'll roll over in his grave and say, well, it's okay.
Let him roll over then.
but you know what's funny, real quick before I go, and that's the oxymoron to me. That is the oxymoron that America, I think, was built on. And it's funny to me because at the same time they tell you you're too stupid, you're not worth nothing, they making money off of you, and they're using your innovative mind. So it's like, I'm too stupid and I'm not smart enough, but at the same time, you stealing my patents, you stealing my ideas.
You style.
You
right? My stilo.
Right? You just stupid. You can't do nothing.
Like you on your shows.
And that's why I said it's self-worth and we talk and it's an abusive situation. You say, well, nah, brother, you allowed to set your own price. If you want to play for that man, tell him that you want this. Well, you know, I don't want to. No, because what he go try to do is he go try to take as much money out your pocket and put it on his side. And now I'm loving it because now these little young basketball players and football players, they know their self-worth. Well, do it for the fans. He said, well, you know, I love the fans. I hear you, Mr. Owner, but you know, I need to get and my partner who I went to college with, he on the team too, so we gotta look out for him too. Oh, and it's like I'm playing the game that you playing. And we in business school too. We sports agents too now.
That's the thing. That's the thing. That's where we fail because we don't know financial. See, we teach that with our clients.
Financial literacy is important.
Remember I said earlier, that financial understanding, business and things. That is so important.
Yes, it is.
As far as making it and moving, we got ideas, and they know this. Man, you have to hear because
we gotta do a part 2 on this one. The next one, we might have to cut this one into 2 episodes. Then we do a new segment with a part 1 and 2 because I see where we going, and I think it's gonna be real good.
It's dope already. I'm not sure if we can get Sister Bernita back here again. Can we get you?
Sister Bernita, can we get you back one more time?
Of course.
You enjoyed hanging out with us a little bit?
Of course. I love it. I like sharing.
We loved having you.
God has allowed me to have a lot of experience.
I got goosebumps.
And he's given it to me so that I can share. In Titus, it says that the older women are supposed to teach the younger women. It's the same for the brothers. You know, as you learn, you have to instill it in the next generation. And those are your kids, because that's how we break what we're in. I'm loving looking at the TV, you know, like on places like MSNBC and CNN, like I said, and see all of the faces of color, and, you know, Black, Asian, Hispanic, you know, they're not all old, white, rich men. You know what I'm, you know,
right,
trying to be politically correct here.
Yeah. No, I hear you. But I hear what you're saying. It's, you're getting,
you know, and they're professors and doctors and lawyers and attorney generals and state attorneys and the mayors. Oh my God. You know, the governors. It's just wonderful because we are all in this together. And we need to recognize that it's not about, as I said before, the Black race, because it's not a Black race. I mean, you know, that's just me talking. It's only one race. That's the human race. We all, if you take our skin off, you wouldn't know what we were. There's a commercial that they do on television.
Philosophy.
That one that they show the x-rays and all you see is the bones of the person. And then when they come from behind the screen, you see what their identity is. See, that's how we have to look at everybody. Because if the Chinese lady has a heart that fits into my body and I need it, or vice versa, I'm not gonna stop because that person is Chinese. I hope she wouldn't stop because I was Black.
And that's why racism is foolish.
Exactly, because they keep trying to separate us. They have separated us by doing that. Instead of saying, oh, wait a minute. When I answer stuff like that on questionnaires and the census, it says, what's your race? And I put mixed. I know they go like, you know, or they ask me who I work for, and I put God. You know, I mean, that's the truth. I mean, that's what it is. If you do my DNA, you will find out that I am African, I am Native American, and I have Irish in me.
Right on.
I'm mixed.
That's
Yeah.
it.
They want
I'm not
everybody
in a race. Or I'll put human. They say your race, human. I put it down just as big.
They want everybody to fit comfortably in these little boxes.
In these little boxes.
These
pejorative boxes, you know, like, you know.
And that's the oxymoron of them. Yeah, it's we're gonna have to have another segment.
So we just have to teach everybody, you know, as much as possible. Everybody's not going to get it. You know, Drew Brees finally got it. I don't know if Donald Trump will ever get it.
He's not gonna get it.
Okay, don't shut up, Bernita.
That's that. Hey, look, we ain't put no zip. Unzip that.
But you know what? But I will say this.
That dude is crazy. But
I will say this.
We'll hold that for the next segment.
Yeah, we go and I say this, and before we go, I said, you know, and a lot of those people on their way out, and this is why both socially and financially they trying to rob the bank on the way out because they know they are. This is our last hurrah.
Mitch
Let me snatch as much as I can.
Mitch McConnell knows his time is up.
That's why he's doing Kentucky like that. That's why he's doing Kentucky.
Yeah, he knows his time is up.
Give me everything.
It's way up. There's a brother that's running against. I think there's a brother that's running against him.
No, it's a brother running. It's a woman running against Mitch McConnell, but it's a brother running against Lindsey Graham.
Right, Lindsey Graham.
Okay, right. Yeah. Because, you know, there's so many things. I know you got to go.
I know. They got to go. And Trump.
No. He said they got to go. He said they.
No. They both know.
No. Yeah. And they losing in Poland. They losing.
That's what you. Yeah. That's the similar. That's the image of entrenched management. Mm-hmm. How long them dudes been there? How long they been, you know, representing?
9. Well, what's the name that lost? What's his name?
Steve King.
Who?
From Iowa.
Yeah, that's been there for 9 terms.
Was it Steve King?
Steve King, 9 terms. I think it's him.
That's entrenched management. Presidents don't even get to last that long.
Yeah. And I can understand if you there because you was doing a great job, but what you're doing is that you just fear mongering.
You manipulating the stew.
And finally they came in. Now they kids are voting. They said we're not buying this. We're not listening.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Grandma, I love you, Grandma, but that's not the truth. We got internet now, and then Grandma see that. And that's how this.
You know when it's really started changing? When they had the shooting in Florida at the high school.
The Stoneman Douglas.
Right. When the kids said, "No, you got to take these guns because these guns are killing us." When those children rose up and started talking about it, that's when you started seeing some changes. Because see, all those kids can vote now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
that's what's up.
You not gonna change the laws? We gonna change the laws. You know,
change the world.
So, yeah, I've enjoyed it.
This was a very fruitful. Go ahead, Verb.
No. You go finish it. You can sign us out. No, go.
This was a very fruitful conversation, hangout session. I want to thank Sister Benita Walker for coming on and hanging out with us for these couple of hours doing her thing. You know, she's used to shooting that knowledge from the hip, and we really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Very
thank you. Invite you back for a second one.
Yeah.
If we can get you back, we really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for allowing me to speak freely. And my prayer, of course, is that what I have shared with you all and those who will be watching your program is truly a benefit for them.
Oh,
and I'm just praying. I'm looking for the change in you guys.
Thank you.
I'm too old now.
We got you. We gonna carry the torch. Right. We got you. We got you.
We got you. We're gonna carry the torch.
And real quick for the people on here, which I'm sure we'll list it anyway. Can you give us the rundown, or maybe where they can check you out at, or
please, yes.
I'll probably end up putting it in the comment section or in the title anyway. But if you want to just give it any words as to
the agency that I work with is Project PeaceMakers.
Okay.
We don't give out the address because basically it's a confidential location because we work with victims of domestic violence. But the phone number, if anyone needs assistance, is 323-291-2525. That's 323-291-2525. My staff is fantastic. They're very knowledgeable. We do restraining orders. We fax them in so that they don't have to go into the court. And we handle all of those types of things. And we are bilingual, Spanish and English, English and Spanish. So we don't turn away anyone that we can help. We'll work with them in whatever way that we can. It's very important to us.
Right on.
We're about saving lives and about changing lives.
Yes, ma'am.
And empowering those victims.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
That's my sister right there. Again, that's my sister. That's my teacher, my mentor. Thank you very much, Benita, for being with us tonight. And we look forward to having you back.
Thank you. Have a good evening and a blessed one.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to the man cave. Yeah. Welcome to the man